that a storm came out of nowhere. The sky had been clear all day, but by nightfall, black clouds swallowed the moon. The wind hollowed, tearing leaves from trees, slamming doors. We huddled inside the thatched roof, crashing above. Suddenly, amid the roars of storm, I heard it again, the muffled clocking, but louder, stronger, as though multiplied 100 times. Through the walls, even over the thunder, I could hear it. Chickens crying from beneath the earth. I looked at my grandmother for the first time. I saw fear in her eyes. She clutched the beads around her waist and muttered prayer faster than I had ever heard. When the storm, silence fell heavy, but I knew deep inside that something had shifted forever. The next morning, I could not hold it anymore. Mama, my voice trembling, what is happening in the farm? Why do I hear chickens? She froze. Slowly, she turned to me, her face as hard as stone. What you heard is your imagination, speaking of it to no one, or the earth will turn against you. Her voice cracked like a whip. The room went still. That was the last time I dare ask her, but the question never left me. A few weeks later, as I walked through the market with my mother, I overheard two women whispered near the paper store. They say Mama Eke buries chicken in her farm. That's why her land always grow. I heard too, the neighbor replied. But this year, the spirit refused. Her crops are dying, and the ground is restless. The words struck me like a slap. So it was not only me. People knew. People whispered. I walked home that day with my chest heavy. The secret I carried was no longer mine alone. Not too long after I had a dream. In it, I stood in the middle of the farm. The maize stalk towered above me. Their leaves whispered like voices. Suddenly, the ground began to shift, and out from beneath the soil came chicken, dozens of them, their feathers trained with dirt, their eyes wide and glowing. They surrounded me, clucking and flapping, but their sounds turned into words, and clear and sharp. Give us back our breath. I woke up drenched in sweat, my chest tight, my ears still ringing. When I told my cousin, she paled. Don't tell Mama. She will say the spirits are angry. Maybe they are. By mid-year, it was clear our harvest had failed. The maize ears were small. The yams shivered. For the first time in my life, our barn looked empty before harvest was even over. People in the village who had once envied us now pitied us. Some even mocked us. One night, I overheard my cousin again. Mother, stop this madness. The chicken are gone. The harvest is gone. The ritual has brought nothing but shame and disgrace. But grandmother would not bend. Her voice was fierce. You do not understand. If I stop, we will lose more than crops. We will lose ourselves. That was when I realized she was bound to this ritual by something far stronger than hunger or tradition. She believed Earth demanded it, and maybe in some twisted ways she was right, because the unthinkable had only just happened. It happened one evening as the sun bled red across the horizon. My cousin and I were sent to fetch cassava leaves from the edge of the farm. We walked carefully, our eyes darted never at every rustle of the wind. Then we saw it, near the spot where I had first watched my grandmother bury a chicken. The soil had cracked open. A pale feathered wind jutted out. stiff and lifeless. Fowls buzzed around it, and they sound thick and angry. Ada screamed, dropping her basket. I froze, my breath stuck in my throat. The wind twitched. I swear it moved. We ran all the way home, our legs burning, our voices hoarse from screaming. When we told grandmother, her face darkened. She did not go to see for herself. She only whispered, "The earth is speaking them out. We must be careful." That night, she sat by the fire, staring into the flames as though searching for answers. I watched her, realizing for the first time that the woman who had always seemed unshakable now looked small and afraid. And in that moment, I knew the unthinkable was no longer just coming, it was already here. The morning after the wind appeared, I woke to smell of camphor and clash. Grandma had started burning herbs, bitter leaf, dry guava leaves, and a handful of bark she kept in calabash, wrapped it with cloth. She moved through the house with smoke, tracing door frames and the muttering words I could only part recognized. Our room filled with a thin, stink haze. My mother watched from doorway, arms faded, saying nothing. "Keep the doors open," grandmother said. "Let the bad air live with the night." I stood with the threshold and looked out the farm. The light was early and slanted, making the maize look taller, the ground older. The soil near the ritual spot looked darker than the rest, as if I had drunk something heavy and was still very full. I could not unuse the wind. Even with my eyes closed, it floated in front of me, pale and stubborn. By mid morning, neighbors started to come, not with envy or mockery, but a look I recognized from funeral, sharp, curiosity edged with fear. "Good morning, Mama," they said, their voices careful. "We had a fox tore through your farm at night." Grandmother did not invite them in. She stood with her hand on her hips and said firmly, "Foxes are not our trouble. Go and weed your own plots." They left quickly, but felt their eyes return to us from across the path, like birds perched just out of reach. That afternoon, Uncle came from the next village, carrying a bag of dried fish and a stubborn frown. He went straight to the yard where grandmother was sorting cassava stems. "Mother," she said without greeting, "it's enough." She didn't look up. "What is wrong?" "Whatever this is, the chicken are afraid." Ada is shaking like a leaf. "The neighbors are talking." "End it now." Grandmother kept sorting as if the stems had become more important than his words. "Your tongue is quick," she said. "Do you have a better plan for the rain or the soil, for the mouth that will be open in August? We can pray, we can save, we can plant legumes and improve the soil. We can." She lifted her eyes. "And when we did all these things, who made the yam barn full? You? Your new ideas from the town? Or the covenant I kept when your father died?" Uncle's jaw worked. "You lowered your voice, but the anger stayed. A covenant that buries a living is not from God." Silence fell and between them. A chicken cluttered near the doorway, and then thought better and hurried away. "Go and rest," grandmother said finally, with handling, but no one asked. We moved around one another like people in a small canoe during a storm, carefully, not to topple over it, even as water sloshed out our feet. 2 days later, I made a decision that felt like stepping into a river at night. I didn't tell anyone. I waited until the house dozed in the afternoon. Grandmother sorting kernels by the window. My mother pounding obono in the mortar. Ada plaiting her hair with the small, tight focus of someone not wanting to think. Then I took the small hoe with the crack handle and slipped out, following the path that my feet already knew. At the spot where the wind had surfaced, flies hummed in a low, busy cloud. The ground was crushed over again, as if someone had pressed a palm to it. I knelt and touched the soil. It was soft and underneath, like bread just pulled from fire. The first scoop came up dark and damp. By the time my stomach revolted, sweet and rotten, like something pretending to be fruit. I gauged, took a breath, and kept going. The wind appeared quickly this time. More of it. It wasn't whole. Feathers sloughed off at my tongue. I swallowed and dug out around it, widening the circle. Flies thickened. Sweat ran into my eyes and stung. And then, not a wing bone, thin and fragile, a beak, back of a skull, clean in some places, smeared in others with soil that clung stubbornly. I stopped. In that moment, the ground felt alive beneath my knees. A pulse traveled through it, a faint thudding I could not have heard but could feel it. I dropped the hoe, stopped it. A voice said behind me. I veered around. Grandmother stood a few feet away, her hand scarf sliding back, her eyes blazing not with anger but with something else, fear that had hardened into command. I told you this ground remembers, she said. You must not wake it. My words completed with my heartbeat. Why? Why can't we let it go? Why can't we unmake it? She stepped closer. Because this is not about meat, it is about promise. Your grandfather made it when he was young and foolish and desperate. He begged the land to hold our family. The land asked what we would give to the ground could use. He gave the answer from his fear, a living thing. I said, my throat tight. A living thing? She repeated softer now. In some places, they pour palm wine. In some, they break kola nuts. But in ours, we did not have those things in plenty. We had a chicken yard. We had hunger and a man with a heavy heart. The wind lifted, carrying a dry rattle through the maze. Then break it, I said. Break the promise. She shook her head. You don't break promises, you change them. How? She glanced at the hole I made. There is a way, she said, and for a second, a tired softness crossed her face. But it takes courage and it takes a price. That evening, after a meal that tasted like we are chewing out our thought, grandmother called me to the veranda. The sun had dropped now, making long shadows of the cassava stakes. She held a small gourd cup and a cloth parcel in her lap. She wanted to change this. She asked, you want the ground to stop asking for breath? Yes, then you must ask it to take yours. My mouth went dry. What? She tapped the gourd cup. Not your life, your breath. For a while, for enough time to make a new agreement. I had no words, only the sound of my own pulse. When your grandmother made this promise, he placed life in the ground to open a door. He said he believed a life answers to life. He was not wrong, but there is more than one kind of life you can offer. You can offer your living days, your works, your strength, your presence, or you can offer the quick breath of another. We chose the quick breath because it is easy. You dig, you bury, the ground eats, and you go home and cook the other way is harder. What do I have to do? I asked finally. You will wake before dawn. You will go to the field with me. You will lie down where the earth has been fed, and you will press your ear to it and breathe with it until the sun touches the top of the maize. You will listen and answer, and you will not run when the ground feels like a chest beneath you. You will speak to it like you are speaking to someone you want to forgive. And if the land accepts your breath, it will give back what it took. If it does not, she left the sentence, trail off, as if the end did not like to be spoken.